All right, y'all, we are back, and I think this is the last uh, video. This will be the conclusion to this breaking down of image. So back with Wavy, and we are gonna do our best dissecting what's left of it. Hope y'all were taking
Absolutely.
notes. Yep. Oh, and by the way, bro, did you hear about the new Batman selling 500,000 copies and how it wasn't actually true?
Well, I've seen some posts about it, but we've already kind of talked about the different tactics, DC and Marvel do, kind of try and boost the sales, just the sales charts, not the actual units sold.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. So, yeah, I mean, we're watching this, what happened in the past, and they're doing it again right now. So, oh well. Okay, let's jump in.
To do something that they really wanted to do.
And that was what Valentino wanted to do as publisher. Open the doors to unique ideas like Eric Shanowar's Age of Bronze, which collected several Eisner Awards. Or The Pro, a bonkers prestige one-shot about a superpowered hooker by preachers Garth Ennis and the dynamite combo of Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor. No other publisher could, or would, touch a book like that.
So there was an audience that didn't need to see, people leaping above buildings and flying and punching through walls. More grounded human stories. And I think Jim thought we could find a niche by publishing books that Marvel and DC just aren't going to publish.
That was a very, very key point. I don't think Image could be what it is today if Valentino hadn't taken those steps. And I actually think Powers was a huge part of that.
Right alongside Kirkman's success with The Walking
Just
Dead,
stop it right there.
the up-and-coming
That is kind of from Eric Stephenson. He's genuine. He's saying that genuinely. Mark Silvestri, he may be genuine now in terms of his what he just said about Jim Valentino, but these guys voted him out, of the publishing position, and someone even threatened him. He didn't name the actual person, but I believe, I'm willing to bet it was Eric Larson, behind the scenes in terms of threatening Jim Valentino. But they ushered him out of the publishing position. They voted him. All the founders did at the time. And mainly because he was taking risks that they weren't. He took risks to actually evolve the publisher and innovate the publisher. So he was doing deals with libraries. He was doing deals with bookstores. He's the one who got them into bookstores and libraries, Image Comics in general. But he did it by canceling a lot of the majority of the crap that they were publishing. A lot of the just the degenerate kind of garbage that was, sure, it was making some money, but he was willing to cut it off to evolve the publisher and push it even further into places like bookstores and libraries that don't accept work like that.
Right. Would you say?
So that was kind of disingenuous, kind of from Mark Silvestri's point.
Yeah, that's disappointing of him.
He said it was true, but they voted him out.
Ay, Chihuahua. But do you think it was imperative that Jim Valentino, decides that, hey, I think we should go into bookstores, not just stay in comic book stores, and go into libraries?
Absolutely.
Does that mean more money if you are in like a Barnes and Noble and the library?
That's just expanding, right? So it's you're breaching more sectors of the market. This is one worldwide market. The comic book industry is a worldwide market on this grand level. You see publishers like Shueisha and Kodansha, they're as big as they are because they have breached and have pillars in this worldwide market. So Image was only in these small, kind of independent, private-owned comic book shops. That's the direct market, is private-owned, comic book shops. It's not an actual, there's no real large, big blockbuster type of, bookstores like a Barnes and Nobles in terms of their actual chains and having multiple store chains in multiple different states and so on. So reaching out of this niche, small kind of independent underground market and expanding into the actual mainstream market, which is the Barnes and Nobles, which is retailers as well and libraries. Going that far is to expand the brand and expose it to a new generation of readers. So that was an excellent move, and that's something that a smart publisher will. If that's one thing that you would know, if a publisher is smart or not, that decision right there tells you how smart and where their focus is in terms of actually thinking about a future and they have a long-term vision for their actual establishment and their publishing company. They're expanding. They're not limiting themselves into one, narrow small little marketplace. They're trying to expand it to multiple.
Okay. Yeah.
As many as possible.
I was a bit on the fence as to catering to the main market. Well, nowadays, in this generation, catering to the main market is DEI garbage. Back then, I suppose things were very fair and neutral compared to now. So I just had a negative bias towards the main market. But ultimately, what you say...
To some extent.
Yeah.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. And that's one aspect to it. If you want to get to it, you want to get to that marketplace quick and very fast. The people that are kind of the big names in terms of even executives at Barnes and Nobles, that catering to them, that may get you in the door a lot faster. So, but I don't think Jim Valentino was about that, in terms of catering, because The Walking Dead, Invincible, all of these things didn't originally cater to it was catering to their actual readers. It wasn't catering to the marketplace or catering to agendas or anything like that. So a lot of what they were producing were just catering to the reader base. And this was more just expanding their reach and getting access to more revenue streams.
Okay, makes sense. Let's keep going.
And we'll go over that interview. I mean, that documentary, we'll go over that and kind of piece it together. That's another interview of Jim Valentino's side of the story.
Right. Okay.
Had turned Powers into a top book and was now also writing the Spawn spin-off, Sam and Twitch. He was about to pick up a job at Marvel writing Ultimate Spider-Man, and that did not sit well with McFarlane, who, let us remind you, quit Marvel after guiding Spider-Man to its best-selling books ever.
It was weird to be fired. For people who don't know, I was on Sam and Twitch and things were going well, and then I got offered Spawn. Spawn I didn't connect to as much as Sam and Twitch, but he heard that I picked Spider-Man over Spawn, which is not it's not what happened. I completely see where he would think that. I'm so sorry, but that is not the case. But because I got fired off of Sam and Twitch, it allowed me the time to create Jessica Jones.
How long did it take for Todd to get over that with you?
We shook hands a couple years. I literally haven't spoken to him since. But we shook hands a couple years ago in San Diego. We walked by each other, and everyone's doing fine.
With Bendis heading to Marvel and Spawn as the only regular Image book near the top of the sales charts, the company needed to find more hits.
Jim Valentino's connections were very...
Mm-hmm. So, can you just rewind that just 5 seconds and kind of pause it right there? Just leave it right there. And so this is, the first thing is just this quick little, why, Todd McFarlane fired this guy off of his book. Because if you're going to work for a competitor, you're not going to work for Todd McFarlane. And Marvel is a competitor to Image Comics. Right. All of the sabotage they put them through, no way are you going to work for Marvel and work for me at the same time. Because that just diminishes Image Comics, especially when Marvel has a larger reach. Just diminishes, what they're doing at Image.
No, that's true. I mean, they're sleeping with the enemy. And
that's the key factor to Robert Kirkman too. He's a partner at Image because he cut off any opportunities or even working with Marvel. He's completely exclusive to Image.
Right. That's what it takes. These dudes will go 1 foot here and another foot there. I think it's because they don't really have faith in either one. but that just means they are free to screw over either one. So that's not
And
a
that's
good.
a major problem too. That's a
Yeah.
major problem with the talent they currently publish as well, and why they aren't going anywhere. Is because they're not sitting down and kind of building a foundation. They're just jumping around to wherever they can find work, scrambling like Nicholas Draper Ivy.
Yeah, I was about to say, just like Diaper Ivy. It's like, bruh, work on your own stuff or commit to something.
Sit down and build a foundation for yourself.
But why do you think? Why do you think they're so scared to focus on one thing? I don't really get it.
I'm gonna say it again. I will say it again, and it's gotta be. We gotta make it like some type of motto, but you gotta have vision. You gotta have an actual long-term vision and faith in your work. If you don't have any vision, you're not gonna have any faith in what you're doing. So you're gonna be. You might. It's one of the things with artists. You may be so inspired when you first start your project, like you can see it, but then you lose touch of that vision, or you something happens that kind of maybe you learn something new about the industry and it's not what you thought it was, so you kind of lose faith and then you just fall off of it, right? And that's kind of what happened with Nicholas Draper Ivy in his original work. Is it's not as black and white as he thought it was. So instead of adapting, he kind of just started fumbling the bag and kind of just scrambling for opportunity.
Demoralized. All right, got it.
I'm with you. We shook hands a couple years. I literally haven't spoken to him since. But we shook hands a couple years ago in San Diego. We walked by each other, and everyone's doing fine.
With Bendis heading to Marvel and Spawn as the only regular Image book near the top of the sales charts, the company needed to find more hits.
Jim Valentino's connections were very much with the...
That Spawn was at the top, thanks to consistency, obviously, right?
Yes. And they need to find new hits. So this is another Eric Larson. He's a backstabber, but let's listen to this.
Okay.
With the indie crowd. And while I think some good books came of that, there was also a lot of books that were not very commercially viable, to say the least. And that proved to be something of a problem because creators weren't getting any money, and so those creators would leave. That's why I wanted to try my hand at being publisher, because I had more of the connections with the Marvel and DC guys. I thought I could help out some of the books that were floundering in that regard.
Tense time, rough time. Were you happy to move on?
No, it wasn't. No, it was Eric Larson making a power play, and I wasn't happy about it, and still am not. But, things happen.
If it was a power play, it was like, these books aren't doing very well. This company is taking on water. Something needs to be done. If he is not able to write this, then I'll do it.
But are you guys okay now?
And that is a power play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's a power play because you can do both. Okay, you want to bring in some indie guys, great. You brought in indie guys, but you can also bring in some. So he said he had connections with Marvel and DC. That's crucial. Marvel and DC guys are not going to be committed or loyal to you. If you build up independent guys, they will stay with you, right? Because they don't have any connections with Marvel DC. They're rooted in their own work. So they're going to stay committed and loyal to their own work. That was the point of why Jim Valentino was looking at indie creators, because these Marvel guys aren't loyal. None of those Marvel guys he brought on are working at Image right now. They're jumping back and forth with Marvel, DC. They may be here for like 5 years, and then they go back to drawing Spider-Man or whatever they're drawing, right? But Jim Valentino, the people he brought on and gave opportunity to, like a Robert Kirkman or any other creators, they stayed loyal. Now, not all of them, but majority of them did.
Now, that's a good point. I guess it's because they want quick money. Building up somebody takes resources and time. Reminds me of one DC artist who's South African. I asked him, can you mentor me? And he said, I have a daughter, bro. I don't have time. I'm like, nigga, what does having a daughter have to do with anything? I'm willing to pay. It's insane to me. They're gatekeeping the industry, but then it's like you do realize that y'all won't have the same energy output to release books. You're actually going to end up tanking the whole industry, your own career, because you gatekept. If someone's got talent but is just misguided and passion, you should help them. And you should take the money
And
if they're
that's-
willing to pay.
And that's what Jim Valentino was doing. He was trying to rebuild and create new superstar, talent that has never been seen on a Marvel level or DC level, straight up from Image. And those guys, if they would have been successful in Image, they would have stayed loyal and they would have stayed with Image. Like most of Image successful series, they're still going today. They may not be, it may not be a Walking Dead. They may not be a Saga, which is like the most recent, I guess, hit. Not anymore, but for multiple reasons. But that's another story in itself. But yeah, you got to build up these new creators. That's the only way you can add or innovate this industry. Is we need new stories for this new generation.
Exactly. All right.
And it wasn't a happy time for me because I wasn't getting a lot of work done on my own book, which is what I got into this business to do. It was my own comics. So as soon as things were headed in a decent direction and it looked as though the company was headed towards calmer waters,
He didn't contribute anything
then
to
I
that.
stepped back from that and went back to getting my damn book done.
He didn't contribute anything of
Stephenson.
that. Because watch this right. Watch this part right here.
Okay.
And would eventually take over as publisher in 2008. With The Walking
See?
Dead, the first Image.
It didn't go back to Jim Valentino. It went to Eric Stephenson,
Right.
which obviously that was a power play. So he took over as publisher he said to get the company back in the calmer waters or a better position, and to bring on even Marvel and DC guys like he said he had connections with. But once he did those things and those things went nowhere, Jim Valentino wasn't offered the position again, right? It went to Eric Stephenson, which luckily Eric Stephenson was a student of Jim Valentino. So he was still kind of working behind the scenes, Jim Valentino, through Eric Stephenson.
Man, so they just wanted to steal the power play, but steal the contributions of Jim Valentino.
Yes,
Basically.
and this is the reason. Well, the reason why is because Image Central is technically separate from Atomic Farland Productions, Skybound, or any of the other publishing imprints, like even Eric Larson's Highbrow Entertainment. It's separate. Image Central is kind of like its own publishing imprint in itself, like the center of Image. So Jim Valentino becoming publisher of Image Central. Basically, I would say he had submitted his own kind of career. I would say he was expanding his career, and I think Eric Larson, seeing the bad sales on his own work, was trying to also expand it to being a publisher and being, trying his hand at being publisher. I don't think he was, like he said, he wasn't qualified, Jim Valentino, so he wasn't qualified for it. It was just a power play. So he was just trying to, I guess, reap some reward from being a publisher, but he had no experience in that field.
Unreal, bro. Rather childish, honestly. But okay.
Just the infighting.
Yeah. No vision.
Book to be consistently at the top of the charts since the Founders books. One of the first moves he made was making Kirkman an Image partner. He's the first non-founder to land in this role.
So Eric Stephenson called me up one day. I think Eric Larson was on the phone too, and they were like, "So, looks like if it's something you're interested in, like, maybe Image would, like to make you a partner of the company." And I was just like, "What? Like, are you kidding me? All from driving a guy to the airport and getting lost."
Robert's the poster child of how Image works, like the ultimate. He's that guy that.
Explain.
He's beyond the peak. He's beyond the
He's
cloud.
beyond those clouds.
Right? It's like he's where that's where the peak is, right? And still climbing. So, he's the best success story Image could possibly have.
Becoming an Image partner for Kirkman meant going all in on creator-owned comics. No more work for hire.
Ding, 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 ding. That's the magic. That's why there was never the equivalent of a writer's version of what we did. They tried it, but it failed miserably. Why? Because none of them quit their other competition work that they were doing for direct
They
competitors.
didn't go all in.
They didn't go all in. That was it.
I'm a partner in a company that my
That's
pull
simple.
box was the.
That's simple. They're not going all in and investing in themselves. They're investing in a corporation. The same thing you do with your 9-to-5 job. It's no different, right? You have to invest in yourself if you want to have your own future. You want to build your own future, you have to build it yourself. You have to invest in yourself. There's no stability, relying on these corporations. Robert Kirkman is the poster child of how image is supposed to work. But he's the only one that had the vision and had the actual and skill set to actually make it this far, with using their platform, right? Because he owns all of his work. They don't own a single penny of his work, Walking Dead, Invincible, any of that.
That is insane. It's only Kirkman who actually graduated from what Image was trying to do all along. That is absolutely insane, bro.
He's also the only creator to go over 100 chapters other than the founders. The only creator at Image, period. No other creator has went over 100. They barely reach over. It's like a handful. Less than 5 stories have even reached over 50. Right? So that shows you the commitment of some of these authors. And they've published hundreds of authors in the last 20 to 30 years.
Man, that is nuts. And that's horrendous, actually. Dismal. And I want to say an absolute failure, but with the main idea at hand, they failed because they were supposed to get more people like Kirkman. But thanks to... oh, boy, yeah.
It's a double-edged sword, right? So Image did not fail in the sense of they built the platform, but the creators themselves have to drive their own ship. It gives you a reflection of the creators. Now, they failed in the sense of them not really teaching or really staying connected enough to where they can kind of bring these guys up and under that same kind of doctrine of being, giving them a proper foundation to where if say financially they got into a financial drought, they wouldn't scramble back to Marvel or DC. So the foundation is there. The platform is there. It's you that have to do something with it as the creator. Yeah, they definitely could have done better in terms of building a little bit more of a safety net for some creators because, investing into yourself, especially after you've been taught that you need a job and you need to work for a corporation to, have a livelihood. A lot of people, that's scary for majority of, average people, to take that risk of risking, everything, to create something yourself and create something outside of the actual system itself. So, but it's there. The platform is there. Robert Kirkman just did something with it. He was in debt, for almost, I think, $50,000 at one point, just to pay his artists with he was in credit card debt. He was paying his artists with those credit cards.
Whoa.
He put himself in those positions to get to the place he's in now.
Wow. Yeah, now that's a true success story right there. All right. I had no idea it was mostly Kirkman.
No other choice. He was literally up against the wall.
Yeah, do or die. Yeah. All right.
The basis of at the first comic shop that I went to, all the posters on my wall were Image, and now I'm at the center of it, which is extremely surreal. Being a partner at Image Comics is far more surreal and impressive to me when I think back on what my former child self would think is the coolest thing about my life now. Way better than the Walking Dead show. Like, you go back to 12-year-old Robert Kirkman and you're like, you're a partner at Image Comics, and they turned one of your comics into a TV show. And he's gonna go, partner at Image Comics? What are you talking about? Really?
See,
oh my God.
See, that tells you a little bit of his mindset right there. Like, TV and all that is a byproduct of the actual comics themselves, right? That's something he owns completely. The television itself, you have hundreds of other people that have hands into that, so you only get like a percentage out of that, right? But the comic books, which the TV, the actual series, The Walking Dead, he made millions off the comic book reprints because of the series of the success of The Walking Dead. It just skyrocketed his sales. The majority of his income came from the books.
Oh, okay.
And he knows this.
Okay, yeah.
That's why a partner at Image Comics has more value to him than his, work getting a TV adaptation, because that's temporary, man. That's temporary. That's not an actual proper foundation, right? That's just an adaptation that comes and goes, and you only see a check, a percentage. It's not something that can be resold over and over and over again. It's just once it's airing, you're getting some percentage or royalty or whatever the contract is, and then once it's done, it's done.
And
the books are always in circulation.
Exactly. That shows that you gotta have that body of work like completed or have a big chunk of it, so that dudes who don't want to wait for the next season, they can just go buy the books. So makes sense.
I don't even care about TV.
Robert Kirkman became Lightning in a Bottle #2. So it was easy for the creative people to go, wow, Todd, when you and Jim and Rob did it, it was a different era, and you can't replicate what you did, and so we're just going to stay with Marvel and DC because it's more safe, and there's less risk, and you can't replicate what you did. And then he came along, poof, and the lightning hit again, called Walking Dead, and now they went, maybe it's possible.
With new blood and renewed purpose, Image was getting its groove back. And Hollywood.
And just to add, Walking Dead was maybe like his 7th series. He did like a handful of other works before this. So you have to, once you sit down and you have that foundation, like a place to where you can publish your work, a publication home, just create.
Right.
Hey, your first series doesn't do good. Same thing happened with, Kishimoto. His first series wasn't Naruto. He had prior series before then that failed, right? Prior stories. So the first handful may not succeed, but you may have one in your body of work in your career that succeed and pass all of them, right? But in some creators, your first series may take off, like a Jujutsu Kaisen, like Attack on Titan. It may. It's not a concrete possibility. The Walking Dead was after Invincible. So Invincible wasn't a hit success, story from the beginning. The Walking Dead actually, uplifted Invincible and his other prior, body of work.
That's true. It just goes to show that you gotta have a bunch of ideas in the closet that you just can whip out one by one. Investing too much in one series might be a bad idea.
Yeah.
It depends if you want to go through the institutions. Definitely there, you can't invest in one idea. You gotta have like at least 10 before you go.
Well, even a career in this field, it's like that's a no-brainer. You shouldn't be so connected to a work that where you take this work to the grave. This is your only work. This is your masterpiece work, especially if it's your first work. That's one thing that's important about the mainstream market is you can see the stats going based off the readers, because this is why we create comics, is for it to be read. If no one's reading it, you got to try something new. And you can take elements of your previous work and apply that to your new work. You can take the essence of it, apply that to your new work, and carry it on. You can even reinvigorate your work, like a 2.0 version, like Levius, and multiple other, series. Just think it. You can kind of you'll see it. But there's so many options. But you shouldn't be so broken down if one work fails, because you're thinking of this as a career. So this is your career, not your one work, but anything you create is, part of you having a career in this field.
You're right.
Hollywood was paying attention.
I wanted to attract better talent. I wanted to put out better books. I wanted to change the way people regarded Image Comics.
Then Brian K. Vaughan comes along with Fiona and they do Saga.
It's the power to the creator. I think that's the one I'm most proud of. And I think the Image Brotherhood is most proud of.
I'm glad that Mark Jeffrey said that, because, even despite all the infighting, I still have a lot of respect for Mark Silvestri. And that's kind of where his mindset is now. Like, that's new. This is like that's modern Mark Silvestri right there. So despite all the infighting and a lot of the infighting with Image founders, I'm happy to see that they're still united to some extent, right? They're still all a part of Image. They didn't jump ship like a lot of them did. Like Rob Liefeld at one point, Jim Lee completely jumped ship. So he's a sellout at my page. Complete, just abysmal sellout. No respect. But despite all that, they're still together. Top Cow is nowhere near where it used to be. He's still at the drawing board, still writing, still drawing, still producing.
Yeah, that's one nice thing. He's still a craftsman, so that's what's up.
And if we need to break this up into like multiple parts today, I'm completely free. Like, we could just keep. I know you only have an hour at a time, but we can kind of just go back to back, just to kind of knock this out.
Okay, there's only 10 minutes of it left anyway. I guess we can do a revise once this has ended, because we are not yet. We're only at 30 minutes now, so we still got time.
It's a lot of like, this is all the ending. A lot of details in there.
All right.
With The Walking Dead printing money, Image Comics now had its biggest hit since the company's early days, with Spawn and Youngblood. Newly minted partner Robert Kirkman and publisher Eric Stephenson had a simple strategy to turn Image into the HBO of comics.
What did you see your mission statement as and your goal as publisher to be?
At that point, I wanted to attract better talent. I wanted to put out better books. I wanted to change the way people regarded Image Comics. Again, as I told you earlier, Robert and I used to talk on the phone all the time, and Robert had just been made partner around the same time this happened. But yeah, we kind of put together a list of people that we wanted to get over to Image from either world.
This is very, very important. The HBO comics, I think this was a mistake. Drastic mistake on why they've kind of stunted in their growth. Because now they're looking at writers, screenwriters. A lot of these screenwriters from these HBO comics. Let's break that down. HBO, that's they're specifically talking about the film aspect of HBO. So a lot of the writers they brought on, and he's about to name, are, they're trying to they're using comics as a leap board to get to HBO, get to Hollywood. So they're kind of just using it as a stepping stone. They're not adding or committing to the actual craft of comics. So, and this comes from two writers, right? Eric Stephenson is a writer. Robert Kirkman is a writer. That's the downside of Images. They're not looking at artists, right? Which, when it comes to comics and this craft, the art is the writing, right? This is the visual storytelling. It's not like, you shouldn't treat it like film. We shouldn't treat this craft like film. We shouldn't treat it like animation. The art is the story. So that's the difference between this industry and Image, and also what the Japanese do in the Japanese industry, which the norm is a writer artist out there, because that's where the writing is made, is within through the art. So that's kind of what stunted them, is you have a lot of these guys that come and do four issue miniseries, and then they leave and take it to Hollywood and try to pitch it, right, for a TV show. They're not committed to an actual long form series, and that's what they're struggling with right now, and that's what stunted Image. Right,
and I remember, Torishima mentioning the importance and value of long form series, and these dudes using the bare minimum as a springboard into Hollywood. It's been failing ever since, because, man, it's not sustainable. But you're right.
Yep.
Alert from DC.
Love to name them.
Who's on the list?
Huh?
5 seconds, just like go 5 seconds back. He's gonna name it right here. He's gonna say it.
Comics. Again, as I told you earlier, Robert and I used to talk on the phone all the time, and Robert had just been made partner around the same time this happened. But yeah, we kind of put together a list of people that we wanted to get over to Image from either Marvel or from DC.
Who's on the list?
Oh, who was on that list? Brian K. Vaughan, Grant Morrison, Mark Miller, Matt Fraction, Rick Remender. Wanted to get him.
Yeah, and these guys, like Mark Miller, was in DC. Once again, not building people from the ground.
Yes, these are all 40, 50-year-old writers. So these guys are already on their way out. So why would you try and make an initiative? And this is prior. Like right now, Image right now, nothing came from this. This is like, how many years ago was this filmed? This was
2017,
really,
I think.
Yeah, this initiative was really taking place about like 13, 14 years ago. So nothing came from it. No long form series, nothing. Like Saga is the largest hit that came from the first guy he mentioned, which was Brian K. Vaughan. But he's working in television right now. You know, he's not really committed to even his own creator own series anymore, Saga. You know, so this initiative was a complete failure, especially the fact that, like I said before, they're recycling Marvel and DC guys. Even Mark Miller is no longer a part of Image. He actually took his catalog of work and moved to Dark Horse, which was like an idiot move. But it's crazy to me, dude. Some of these guys they got just they invested in, opposed to getting guys like us, right? Creators like us that are committed to telling our own stories and committed to our own work. Instead of investing into young creators like us, their focus is on these television guys which have a false sense of success. That's outside of comic books. You're a comic book publisher. That's outside of comic books. You should be trying to build up these, like Valentino was doing, these small indie guys, indie creators, because they will be loyal and sit down and draw and work. And the result of that would be the success of Image, because they're a comic book publisher, not a Hollywood studio. So trying to be the HBO of comics isn't working.
Nuts. Is Skybound rectifying all these mistakes since Kirkman's the head of it?
Yes. So yes and no. So yes and no. So a lot of Skybound successes come from writer artists, come from artists, right? So even their own creator owned, or not really creator owned, because their contract is a little different from Image, right? So you don't really own your work. Skybound owns it. So you may own a percentage, but Skybound owns it because they pay you a page rate to produce it. So it may be original work, but you don't own your work working with Skybound. Skybound owns it. So, and you may be completely free to do whatever you want with that work, but at the end of the day, Skybound owns it, right? And it says that in any of the books they publish, right? So even the guys that they like, the writers, like the HBO comics, he did that with Skybound. All of those works failed. Donny Cates is a perfect example of this. Donny Cates is a Marvel writer. He's famous for his Venom, the Venom verse, like the King Venom or King Symbiote or whatever that series was that he did with Venom, Blood King or whatever the hell it was. I forget the name. I don't care about this guy or Marvel or any of his work, but Robert Kirkman brought him over. He gave him that platform to do his original work. What does he do? He's still working for Marvel and DC and juggling his creator-owned work. And guess what? The result of that is nobody gave a damn about his creator-owned work. Nobody gave a damn. So it was just, it completely just diminished the amount of money and the actual effort that Robert Kirkman was, giving to these guys. And we'll do I definitely want to break down some of the interviews and panels of some of these writers and show you just exactly who these guys were, because it's ridiculous in terms of how unprofessional even a Donny Cates was at even a panel. He couldn't even describe or tell you what his story was, and and what his plan was with his story. He was just there as I guess a mascot for Skybound, but he's not there anymore. You know, the proof is in the pudding, right? So, but someone like a Daniel Warren Johnson is the best guy to come out of Skybound. The best. He's a writer, artist. He's still doing his original work, still working with Skybound on the Transformers, the latest like license that they have. But all of his original work, like his foundation to his career, was started in Skybound.
Right. Damn.
So, you know.
Yeah, we'll have to check those out. Okay.
We wanted to get Ed Brubaker. The only person that was on my list that we could not get was Alan Moore.
Remember those names. We'll get back to them.
Of all
But in the
people.
mid-aughts, the comics industry was still struggling. And then came the summer of 2008 and the release of a non-image comic book movie.
I've said this many times. I truly believe that Robert Downey Jr. saved comic books. Yeah, because Marvel was
That's actually it. That might seem accurate, but it's also not so accurate. I think Robert
Not
Downey
at all.
Jr. solidified the destruction of comics as a mass consumable product, you know, in the culture. So I don't know why Mark would say that.
I think, I think let's put it like this: it exposed some aspects of comics because this Iron Man wasn't a popular comic book character, so it did expand the notion behind, hey, this movie is based on a comic book. So you got to remember, like our last couple episodes, you know, when he spoke about his Witchblade live action series. Back then, the notion was we're not going to promote the comic book at all. Promote that this originates in a comic book or that medium. So that is what he means by that notion changed. But the result of this movie did not benefit any of the comic book industry at all. None of the movies did because also Marvel didn't capitalize on it, and also it doesn't reflect on the image because this is Marvel, so it doesn't have anything to do with the image anyways.
Right. It might have expanded everything, sure, but sales of
say it too.
comics just didn't go up from what I saw.
Yeah, he was
It's all
saying
in on Iron Man. You could be a C, D level character, and Robert Downey Jr. and that suit saved Marvel because I think they had a lot of their eggs in that basket, and I think if that movie had not worked, I think Hollywood would have turned its head away, and I think the general populace would have turned its head away. It's like comics don't mean anything.
The birth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe had...
You see, they're still trying to correlate the movie industry, Hollywood, like catering to Hollywood as a way to boost up the comic book industry. No, you have to. This industry has to be separate. It needs to be separate to survive. It should not be. It should be competing against the Hollywood industry. It should not be trying to become a
partner
landfill of ideas for Hollywood. No, that's not what this is. It shouldn't be that.
Right. Man.
Film and TV studios are hungry for comics. And Image's diverse slate of non-superhero books offered lots of opportunity. 2010, The Walking Dead debuted on AMC and slowly grew into a monster hit.
When I think back on what my former, child self would think is the coolest thing about my life now, way better than The Walking Dead show. Like, you go back to 12-year-old Robert Kirkman and you're like, you're a partner at Image Comics, and they turned one of your comics into a TV show.
He's kind of just he's reiterating what he already said. But just real quick, this is also a big notion in the indie manga scene, right? This is a mindset that we have to get rid of. The fact that using manga or using comics as a springboard to get your anime adaptation or your movie deal, no, that's not what this is, and that's not going to work. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't be expecting this to springboard you to an adaptation. If you want a career in movies, you want a career in animation, go directly there, right? Same thing with LaShawn Thomas. He's no longer doing comics because he wanted to do animation. So he went straight to animation. He became an animator, a character designer, working with animation studios, doing his own original projects. You want to do that, go do that. Nicholas Draper Ivy, he wants to do animation, but he's still trying to juggle comic books, and he's kind of double-minded in that sense. Go do that, right? So don't waste your time over here thinking that this is a springboard to those areas, because it's not. That's not how it works, and that's not how we elevate this industry. We have to be focused purely on the work. Don't even worry about adaptations. And if the adaptation happens, it's there to market your work and market your books.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It reminds me of Gigok. Speaking of Gigok, that new anime thingy of his, I still have to watch it. And he went directly to the Japanese animation studio.
Same thing with Corey Kenshin, same thing with RDC World, same thing with all these influencers. They want the anime, and they're using the manga as a springboard, as their way of getting an anime adaptation. Like, they literally say what they want, and they think this is the route, but they're coming at it all wrong. Right. That's not what this is. That's not how this works. Same thing with The Walking Dead. The success of
Hey guys, if you want to see the full video and its context, consider joining my Patreon. That's where the real caffeine is at. Cheers.